This harkens back to the gentleman who mentioned about the veterans committing suicide. I'm a visiting nurse, and this is more of a basic at-home question. I find that now we tend to not know our neighbors. We tend to be very isolated. We're very suspicious. We're less inclined to say hello, less inclined to make that connection. I think that's where peace begins, is in our own neighborhood. And I was just wondering if you had suggestions or insights or opinions about how things have changed since we were young, hanging clotheslines in the backyard and running around and having more conversations over the back fence versus this kind of, I just have these leaders on, I'm just going to get in my house and I'm not going to talk to anybody.
So not wanting to get into the whole broader sociological discourse, which is there's many books about it. It is undoubtedly true that Americans are not as connected to their communities and subsequently their neighbors as they used to be. There's people are kind of the irony of the information age is we're all more connected, and in the process we're less connected to one another. Being on Facebook and liking a status or seeing a friend share a post is not the same as talking to them while you're waiting at a bus stop or talking to them at the lunch counter down the street. But it is still the fact that we all are members of communities. Some of us go to houses of worship, some of us go to schools, some of us go to workplaces. We all have people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. In my former life, before I was a do-gooder peace activist, I was a bit of a political hack running campaigns. And the numbers on this are astounding. That the amount of energy, time, and money that you have to spend to try to convince someone to vote for someone depends on the means with which you're doing it. And the number one way campaigns do, which I'm sure is no surprise to anyone, is to run television ads. After that, you guys get phone calls. I'm sure folks get robocalls. You get pieces of mail. They're all along a spectrum of how often you have to do them. You have to see the average television ad a couple dozen times before it sinks in. You have to call a couple hundred people to move one vote. Talking door to door, you move one vote, 1 out of every 14 people that someone talks to. That's an order of magnitude more impactful than any other form of contact with voters. It's actually, coincidentally, for those curious, it's the thing the Obama campaign fundamentally did different than any other campaign in history. It brought into an industrial scale the ability to talk door to door to voters directly. And the thing they did in the 2012 campaign that was remarkable was they married that with technology to know not only who you could talk to, but creepily, in a way, if I'm honest, to tell you who you knew that was undecided and have you talk to them. And it was tremendously impactful, and it's how Barack Obama ended up getting more votes despite Mitt Romney spending a lot more money than him. The point being, it is still by far the most impactful thing we do when we talk to one another, no matter what the setting, no matter how long. And one of the reasons it's so impactful is because we live in that isolation, because we're constantly bombarded in the media with certain messages of a certain debate, right? So if you watch Fox News or even if you watch CNN or MSNBC, you hear one version of a debate. And if you think outside of that message that you're hearing, and this is increasingly true as Americans get sucked into siloed media, whether it's conservative media, liberal media, what have you. If you think outside that, you tend to think you're the only one who thinks that. So it may be that you're sitting at your desk, your friend is sitting at their desk, and all they're hearing is about yet more beheadings in Iraq and Syria. All they're hearing is general after general on TV, retired general, I should say, on television, talking about the efficacy of military strikes and how good special forces would be if we sent them in, or maybe if we had 10,000 troops, how things would be different. And you begin to think, maybe I'm the only one who thinks that we shouldn't be bombing. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks when you're in a hole, stop digging. But if you talk to them and you let them know, hey, I'm thinking this too, suddenly they're going to realize they're not alone. And that's the first step to organizing. That's the first step to getting people active. And so that's why it's so important to continue to build from the core you have and to spread out. Because we need to convince the vast, vast, vast millions of Americans who agree with us, but who don't pick up the phone and call their congressman, who don't come to those candlelit vigils, who don't ever speak up and have their voice heard, that they need to speak up and have their voice heard.